Good morning and welcome back to this series of tutorials on plant simulation. In the previous video, we already created a first simple simulation model and saw how the event controller worked. In this one, we are going to go more in depth to analyze the most basic objects of the Material Flow tab, and we are going to start solving some problems. Without further ado, let's look at the exercise that we will be solving during today's video. We have a process that consists of several production stations put in series, each with a process and recovery time. The recovery time is the time we must wait between the output of one piece and the input of the next. For instance, because the machine has to be cleaned between parts. We need to know how many pieces we can produce per hour with this configuration. We are going to model this process in plant simulation. The first thing we need to do is create a new folder for the exercise. And we will also create a new frame within the folder and close the previous one. This is not mandatory itself, but it is recommended to avoid interference between the different exercises. Once this is done, we create a new class of the source object, which is in Material Flow, dragging while pressing Control, and we instantiate it in the frame. The source object will be the one that introduces parts into our process. If we open the object menu, at the top, we have the boxes to edit the name and label of the source. The name works similar to how files are named in Windows Explorer, with a few differences. No special symbols are supported. The name must be unique within its location, whether it is a frame or a class library folder, cannot contain white space and cannot start with a number. The label, on the other hand, is not mandatory, but doesn't have any of these restrictions and can be used to differentiate objects from each other or provide more information to the model. Below this section, we have attributes spread across several tabs. We are going to comment on some of them, and we will leave the rest for later. The tab that is always opened by default is the first one, Attributes, where we will find the main parameters that will control the behavior of the source. The first important thing to comment on is the Time of Creation dropdown, in which we are going to specify different part generation strategies. Depending on the chosen strategy, the remaining attributes will change to adapt to it. The two most used, however, are Interval Adjustable and Number Adjustable. The first allows you to generate a new piece every certain time uninterruptedly or only for a specific period of time. The second, Number Adjustable, allows us to define exactly the number of pieces to create and the time that will pass between each one. As we see, they are two similar solutions, and we'll have to choose the most convenient one according to the process we want to simulate. Once the strategy is chosen, the remaining parameters are quite intuitive. For any time we define, it allows us to specify it as a constant time or make it depend on a statistical distribution among all the options in the dropdown. The last important parameter to define is the type of element that our source will create. Here again, we can choose between different creation strategies and different objects to be created. In particular, plant simulation allows us to choose between three different types of objects to create, the so-called MUs, or mobile units, that is, objects designed to move through our model in different ways. We can find them here in the MUs folder of the class library. The most basic are part objects, which would represent a generic component or product. Containers would represent any container in which we can accumulate parts, and both their capacity and dimensions can be defined. Finally, the transporter can carry both containers and parts and is the only one that is self-propelled, so it represents any type of vehicle. For now, we are going to work with parts. If we return to the source, we will see that in the MU section, it asks us to pass it the absolute path of the object we want to generate. In this case, we would be generating instances of the part object by default. As we have done before, we are going to change it to use our own class for this exercise. Therefore, we generate a copy of this class here and drag it to define that we want to use this. Regarding the strategies, if we maintain the constant, which is by default, we will always be generating the same MU continuously. If, on the other hand, we choose any of the other strategies, it allows us to produce different MUs according to a sequence, a percentage, or randomly. Another important tab is the Failures tab. This tab is found on most Material Flow objects and works identically on all of them. When an object fails, it stops all processes that were running until the failure ends. We can define one or more types of failure that can happen on the same object. To do this, we click on New and this new window appears. Here we can define the fault in different ways. If the availability checkbox is activated, we will define it with an availability percentage and a mean time to repair, or MTTR, which is an average of the duration of each failure. If this checkbox is disabled, then it is defined based on an interval and a duration. The last tab that I'm going to show you for now is the Exit tab, which is also shared with most material flow objects. If we had several objects connected to the source output, this tab is what allows us to manage different strategies to distribute the MUs between them. The strategy that is defined by default is a cyclic distribution following the order in which each successor has been connected to the source. But if we open this selector, we'll see that there are many more. As in the case of the MUs generation strategy, if we select another strategy and apply the changes, it may require additional configuration. During the exercises of this course, we will see some of these strategies and discuss their functions. For now, we are going to leave the cyclical one that comes by default. Before moving on to the next object, I'd like to comment that all objects come with an integrated help button that provides us with contextual information about all the fields. To activate it, we simply have to select the question at the top and then click on the field we want to know more about. Once we have the input of parts in the model already defined, we are going to represent each of the production stages that the real parts must go through using the station object. So we generate our own class, just like before, and instantiate it in the frame. If we open the station menu, we will see that the tabs are quite similar to those we have already mentioned in the source. Where we will see the most changes is in the Times tab, which would be the equivalent of the attributes that we already saw. Here we will be interested in editing the process times and recovery times for this exercise, which is the information we have, and leaving the rest of the times blank. So we will insert as many station objects as stages there in the actual process and configure their timings. I'm going to set up a couple of stations, and the process would be to repeat this several times with the rest. Additionally, I've changed the names to match those in the exercise. We also have to configure in all stations that the recovery time begins when the part leaves the station, that is the third option, not when it enters, so as not to harm the process time if possible. We could do this by opening all the stations one by one, but since they are all instances of the same class, we can simply change this attribute in the parent station. We come here, we select it, and now if we open any of the instances, we already have this attribute changed. Finally, we are going to simulate the output of parts from the process with a drain object. Same as in the previous cases, we are going to create our own class, and we are going to instantiate it within our model. In this case, the tabs that we have available are very similar to those of the station, so we are not going to comment them again. Now, we can connect all the objects using connectors. If we do not want to have to select the connector object every time, different objects can be connected if we hold down the control button. If we now click play, we will see that the model now works correctly. The question now is, how do we get the results? We are going to return to the event controller, reset the model, and this time we are going to look at the Settings tab. Here we can configure the date on which we want the simulation to start, which right now does not interest us, but also two other fields that we are going to modify. The first is how long we want the simulation to last, and the second is from when we want statistics to start collecting. This last field is very useful if we do not want to take into account the ramp-up or warm-up period in which the simulation fills with parts, but rather we are interested in the statistics of serial production. So, we are going to define a ramp-up of 1 hour and a simulation time of 1 day. Lastly, we are going to activate the option to show us a report at the end of the simulation, and we are going to apply the changes. If we run the model again, we will see how now, at the end of the simulation day that we have defined, this report is automatically generated. Here we have different statistics broken down for each drain in the model, but the one that interests us now is this: throughput per hour. This tells us that production has been 30 pieces per hour. With this, we have seen the main attributes to take into account of the most used objects in plant simulation. In the next videos, we will expand the range of objects and see how to use tables and edit icons. Greetings, and until the next video.